Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Worthy Series podcast. I am Shakita Taylor, author of Infinitely Worthy. And today we have a great topic for you. And the topic is stop saying I'm fine, especially when you're not. So I have with me Valencia Harris. Valencia Harris is not only my bestest friend ever, but she is doing amazing things in the education world. She is the owner and founder of a company called Significant Life Educational Resources. And then she has a nonprofit that also deals with being your best self, and it's called Significant Life. Valencia, hi.
Hello.
And y'all, so Valencia deals primarily in the educational realm. She helps teachers not be burnt out, to empower them for resources for their classrooms, provide educational components for them to excel in their classroom, and not have to recreate the wheel. But she also, part of that is helping educators when it comes to like their life, like their everyday life, like not murdering their children, and all those things. So that's what we're diving into today, is how to and how we as women are constantly saying, I'm fine, oh, it's okay, I'm great. And while we don't dive into when someone's asking about us, like how we're really doing and really opening up on that. So the first thing I want to talk about, Valencia, is so why we do that? Like, are you guilty of it? I mean, how do you get past the just saying I'm okay and just saying I'm fine? And not only when it comes to other people, but even just checking in with yourself. Like, why we do that?
I am absolutely guilty of it. I don't have a for sure answer on why we do it. I can tell you myself, the reason I do it is because the times that I have been vulnerable and kind of tried to say, hey, I'm not fine, it has been misread or taken differently than I meant it. So then it's like, oh, I'm not doing that again. Like, I'll just suck it up and move on. The other part of that is I think just anytime you're in a caregiver role, and oftentimes women tend to be the ones in those roles, you just learn how to put others' needs before yourself. So when you're a mom, when you're a wife, even if you happen to be taking care of an older relative, a parent, and then of course in the realm that I'm most comfortable and familiar with in the world of education, like you're taking care of other people that need you to be on all the time. So you learn how to just put your feelings to the side to take care of this other individual. And before you know it, just by habit, you have learned to just, I'm fine and get it done.
You said something that I think is right on point, is that if we always run the risk, if we share some of this vulnerability, that it's going to be construed in like the wrong way. And so it kind of sucks that if we do share, it's looked at like a form of weakness. It's kind of like that women who are not just professional working, but even stay at home moms, different things, that we are given this like superhero complex. And when we fail to meet that, or we show our humanness that we're not superheroes, it's kind of like, oh, really? Like, it's like people try to
She
show
really don't
up.
have it all together.
Yeah.
She try to look like or act like she has it all together. She don't really have it all together. Yeah.
Right. And so, like, if you were trying to tell me or other people, like, how do we create that space for our friends, family, and people that we're in close connection with already to just like not be superheroes? What are things that we can do, like, or like I can do for my mom, my friends, my people, to let them know that this is like a safe space? Does that have to do with me being vulnerable too? Or like, how can we create that space for other people so then they can feel open to create it for us?
I think the first thing is just the active listening component. It
Mm-hmm.
is such a challenge for us to listen without response. So starting out with just listening, like hearing the person that's talking to you, Then, of course, yes, you want to be vulnerable and share something back, but I think it's kind of a matched vulnerability. Honestly, I mean, why you don't want to think of things like, you tell me your secret, I tell you mine, but that's really how it is. Like, that's the way we build trust. And then just that the trust component comes in over time and trying the vulnerability out. Like, if I tell you something, give it time to make sure it doesn't come back to me, that I don't hear it from somewhere else. And for me, a big, 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 like, kind of deal breaker, or I'm not sharing with you again, is like if we're talking about something months down the line or weeks down the line, and I share this vulnerability with you, and it's brought up in the conversation like willy nilly, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. That's kind of like can I really trust you with sharing these things? Because is it that you really heard me, want to be there for me, or are you just looking for an opportunity to show like, oh, you don't have it all together? Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is that when it comes to really expressing and not just checking in with yourself, you with you, but also sharing with other people, like when you just aren't great, when you just need a day, when you just need a sounding board, is to making sure that that person is a safe space and an acceptable place, because you just can't go out sharing your feelings and emotions with everybody, because everybody can't care for those feelings and emotions. um that's good, because I think a lot of women, especially, I don't talk a lot about men stuff because I ain't no dude. I don't know what you go through. I don't know what you think about.
Right.
So yeah, if somebody want to come on here and tell me what dudes think about, I'll listen. With women, it's like a lot of us did tiptoe into that zone and share openly and try to have a sisterhood, and then we got stabbed in the back.
Right.
And so,
Right.
and for, I know I could talk about myself specifically, that created an environment of distrust. And so, well, we can hang, we can go have wine, we can go to the movies. I was always very reserved about sharing deeply. And honestly, it was when my friendship with you started really deepening, and it became a place that you started sharing with me. And I was like, wait, this feels unfair that she is willing to open her life to me and I'm not doing the same. And so for me, it did take being in relationship with someone who was like, okay, look, I'm I'm gonna let you be my person and hope this goes okay. Because you were very honest, like, hope I don't end up stabbed in the back. But that honesty really helped me be like, you know what? These are normal feelings. I can open and be honest with her as well. Now, I don't know where I heard this acronym from, but I love it and I use it all the time. Is that when people say that you shouldn't say you're fine. And so the reason why in this acronym is that FINE stands for feelings inside not expressed. So when you
Mm.
say I'm fine, what it really means is there's a lot of stuff going on inside me, but I don't feel like using the mental and emotional energy to express it. Do you
Mhm.
find that sometimes, forget other people, we even tell ourselves, I'm fine, because we don't want to express the feelings inside?
I do. But the other part of that, as you were talking, it just came to me. It's like, I just don't have time. Like right now, I have another task in front of me, and I don't have time to sit here and unpack these feelings. So that's gonna have to hold on until I have time in my schedule to come back to this. So I'm fine. Right now, I'm fine. And it literally becomes like an internal self-talk moment. It's like, B, you're fine. You're fine. It's okay. Move on. You're fine. And we move on.
So should we like schedule these times? Because you and I we're like all the other women in the world. We got 5,000 things to do. And you are 100% right. Like, I ain't got time to cry today. Like, I got meetings every hour on the hour. So even if I wanted to, I ain't got time for that today. Um, so how do we go about creating a space and creating the time to check in with ourselves?
Well, it does take intentionality. I try my best every day to have a moment of just self reflection.
Mhm.
I enjoy sitting outside on my porch. So once I get the kids off to school, if it's a work from home day for me, then I go and sit on the porch. And sometimes I just sit for a moment just to let my thoughts run, to think about what I'm thinking about. But it takes intentionality. I don't have a like, this is exactly what you need to do
Yeah.
because everyone's schedule is so different. But I definitely think that starting out your day is important to do that at the start. Um, because I have days where it's like, okay, I'm running late this morning and I didn't take that moment to pause. And the rest of the day just seems full of angst. Like everything is like a push and, to get it done. But when I have that moment to really start my day with the quiet pause, self reflection, check in with myself, it just anchors like the mood for my day. And then I guess I'm just more in tune with having like a prepared response for things because I've already checked in with myself and I know how I'm feeling. I've already kind of accounted for, and it comes with devotion too. Like usually after that quiet pause of just kind of sitting there, I also do my daily devotion. And there's usually always something in my devotion that prepares me for what I encounter in that day, like checking my attitude, being patient, showing grace, kindness, and then just being reminded of who God is to me and for me usually helps me to then have that humanness or show that in all of the situations that I face for the rest of the day. So I know that's kind of a long answer to that's my way. And that would
I
be
am.
kind of my suggestion to just being intentional with it and making sure that you schedule that into your day and honoring more margins. Like that's kind of been something that has become a newer thing is like honoring those margins and boundaries in your day. Like if you say from 8 to 10, I'm doing this, try to stick to from 8 to 10, I'm doing this, and all the other tasks and things have to come at the time that they're set. Things happen, stuff comes up, but honoring those margins and being intentional are probably the first two things that I would say help with that.
Okay, so you said a lot, but I want to go back and really talk about, you said I have a quiet moment and then I do my devotion time. So you and I are Christian, we understand what that means or whatever, but what does that mean when you say devotion time? Like, so are we talking about a period of time where you do scripture reading, prayer, meditation?
Yes,
Okay. And
all
so,
the things.
yeah, and anybody who, let's say that you don't ascribe to the Christian faith, that doesn't mean that you just scratch it off the list and be like, that's not for me. That could be a time of affirmations, a time of meditation. All it is focusing your mind on a concept or a thought, which is very similar to what prayer is. Prayer is focusing your mind on an idea or a thought. For me, that means focusing my mind on the promises that God has given me. For other people, that could be focusing it on positive thoughts and positive energy and not on the negative. So I just wanted to take a moment to really explain because I know that I'm really guilty of using concepts and assuming everybody knows what they mean. And then somebody be like, I don't know what this is. And I actually came back to me with my daughter. um, I was like, okay, I'm about to go do my devotion time. Just give me a minute, right? And so I seen her kind of like creeping in the room, and she was like, "What you do? Like, what you do? Like, you just open up the Bible and be like, boom." And I was like, "No." And it was an opportunity to just kind of walk through. Hey, I have like a guide of a scripture that I read with a little thing, and it was just one of those moments that, as a mama, I say this all the time, but I never explain to them what it is. And I've
Right.
even told them you should do some devotion time in the morning. And they say, okay, but what I was talking about. And how to do that. So if there's anything you
Yeah.
want to add to that portion about devotion time, you can add it.
Well, it helps me to like really make God a part of my day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, I understand that there may be individuals that Christian is not their faith. But for me, that's what works is like, God, I need you to take the wheel because left to myself, I'm gonna make a mess of something today. So starting out that way, it just sets just the tone of my thinking. So that when I get to those other points in the day, my thoughts reflect back to the way that I started my day.
Yeah.
But if I don't start the day that way, there's nothing to reflect back to. So I'm just like on the fly, taking things as they come. Whereas when I spend that time, I have built this moment that the rest of my day has something to reflect back to. And so, regardless of your faith, if you take that moment to check in, you have something to reflect back to throughout the rest of your day.
Now you created kind of like a guide about like how do we check in? And so kind of walk me through like I'm up, I'm brushing my teeth. I'm like, okay, I decided I'm gonna check in with myself today. How do I go from start to finish? Like I know that you have something that I think is an amazing way to just kind of hit all the high points really quick. Share that with us.
Okay, so of course, education is my background. I provide professional development to educators, other business professionals. And so, something that just kind of came on my heart as I thought about myself, and my experience as an educator, being a teacher in the classroom, you have all the things to do. And again, in that caregiver role, you're always on taking care of somebody else. So, you don't always have that opportunity to check in with yourself. And specifically when it comes to professional development, oftentimes my participants are coming from activity. They've just dropped their kids off. They're trying to find a moment to get to the bathroom, and then they still have to come and attend these sessions. And it's like, I haven't even had a moment to breathe. And so that's kind of just the background and backstory of where this strategy first came to me to begin with. But I call it the Heart of Significance segment. And the word heart is an acronym in this sense. And so the H is for health. And you just stop and say, how am I doing today? Like check in with yourself in those different areas, spiritually, mentally, physically, socially, emotionally. How am I doing? And then from that, the E is evaluate. Like evaluate why you are feeling that way, or why you're doing that way in all of those areas. And then the A is affirmation. So now that I've evaluated how I got to feeling this way, then now I want to affirm myself. Like, what are those affirmations that I can say in direct response to how I'm feeling that will help to make me feel better? And then the R is reflection. Just reflecting on who we are. Like what are those things? So now I've given myself these affirmations. Then how can I take that and really make that part of who I am? And then the last is the T, and it's the fun of it all. So like now I've kind of taken a moment to do some deep stuff, and it might even require further reflection later. So that also taps into that R. Like, okay, I've identified these things. Take a moment, breathe about it. I still have this professional development session to attend to, but now I have some things that later on I can go and reflect on and really, dig through. But then finally, the T is theme. Like I have them identify a theme song that relates to the environment in their class, or like what would you say is like that theme song that gets you going in the mornings to just kind of close all of that emotional stuff off with like a high point, and just have like a little dance party. Like let's have a little fun. Let's get it together. I can't dance, but dancing makes me feel good. So it's just a great way to kind of close that off and have that moment of self-reflection. It takes about 15-20 minutes at the start of our sessions. And it's just something that I think is a really good thing to do because it gives us yet again that intentional focus on ourselves for just a moment in our day.
I love that. I love that because I can't sing or dance, but I love doing both. And so when you were talking about theme song, I was just thinking about how like doing this every morning, you could have like a theme song of the day. I am a 90s hip hop child. Like I know people don't think that I know. I don't know any rap music after 2010. But before 2010, I got you. And so I love the fact that it is both serious and reflective, and then kind of bring some fun into it. Because what you can find out is if you started that morning and you're like on Eeyore and Piglet level, like you can know that and be able to be like, maybe by lunch or dinner, be like living your best life, just like mentally, emotionally. But I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I need to reflect on how I'm doing, like as far as my health. So you mean like if I wake up with a headache, to be like just identifying, I got a headache. And then evaluating just for a second, like, why do I have a headache? Like, did I drink too much wine? Haven't I had any water? Like, am I having some hormonal things going on? And then be like, okay, I have a headache, but I'm going to go throughout my day today. I'm going to focus on what I need to do. I'm going to have a positive experience, or even evaluating if there's something going wrong in my body. I need to take time to take the day off and really take care of myself, whichever one it is. And then reflecting on like which choice I made, why I made that, what I need to do for the day. And then deciding that today, I don't know a song that has headaches in it, but having some theme song that has to do with moving past that feeling of, oh, I just didn't wake up the best.
Yeah. And I mean, outside, like it doesn't even have to just be directly related to headache, but just like, what is that song that will get you going? Like, you
Gotcha.
know, songs set our mood, set our tone. We don't always think that way, especially if you're not typically a music listener, because I'm not really like a musically inclined person. I would not, sometimes I ride in my car in silence, right? But when I need to shift my mood, that is when I'm looking for my Apple Music playlist. Because I need something that's going to get me up and get me going. And for me, I've even started, like, I personalize my alarms now to be songs, although I am not a music listener, but it gets me going in the morning. Like, when I hear that beat, it's like, okay, get on up, get this day started, let's get moving. And so to also add to the health portion, like it's just that the health just overall, like whatever category you're looking in. But definitely in that regard, that's a physical health check-in. Like, I'm having a headache today. Like, why am I feeling this way? But then adding to that, like spiritually, like how am I doing today spiritually? Because that might be an indication that I need to spend a little extra time in my devotion today because I'm not doing the best spiritually. I'm a little disconnected. Or how am I doing emotionally? Like maybe something has happened that has me all in my feelings today, or I might be angry. Like I don't want to get too long winded here, but a couple weeks ago, I shared like one of my thoughtful Thursdays. It might not have been a Thursday, but I shared that I had a triggering situation that had me feeling a little attitudinal. But that emotional check in, was like, hold on, my attitude is a little bit off. Let me figure out how I can make some adjustments to get myself together. And that particular day, my theme song was the full Apple playlist because I needed a whole worship session, So it's more of just like giving a strategy for that check-in, but of course, adjusting it as you need to fit. But it's again, I guess the word of the day is intentionality, just being intentional with taking that time to do it.
The thing I love about your HEART acronym is because it can be applied in so many different situations. Like in each morning, we can check in with ourselves. If you're not a morning person, I am not a morning person. Every morning my alarm clock goes off and it seems like it's a surprise to me. Like I'd be like, dang, I gotta get up. Like, and I know I gotta get up, but every morning it's like I'm mad at the alarm clock. So for me, it is after I drop the kids off, I pull up to my office and I don't go right in. I will sit there for like 10 or 15 minutes and just have my moment, have my devotion, have what I need. So if people are on there, so like, well, I'm not a morning person. I got time in the morning. It doesn't have to be in the morning.
Exactly.
It does not have to be in
Any
the
point in
morning.
the day.
Right.
If you work at night and you have like a reverse schedule, like the daytime is really, or evening is your morning, you could do it then too.
Right. The point of it is checking in with yourself daily. That's the point. And then with this HEART acronym, you can even apply it to other relationships. If you are in a dating relationship, it can be like, okay, let me check in with the health of this relationship. Let me evaluate how it's doing. And if it needs to be affirmed, or when you're evaluating, if it was like, wait, this is toxic. This ain't so great for me. Maybe the affirmation is either talking with that person to try to get the relationship healthy, or maybe bagging back, whatever that is for you, and reflecting, and then thinking about like, what's the theme song of this relationship? That same acronym can be applied to like mothering and parenting. It's like, how healthy of a parent am I? Evaluate what you're doing well. I know I am very, very guilty of like coming down on myself about like, you could have did this better, you should have did this better, and like really being critical of myself as a parent, when in reality these kids are fun. Like, we half the stuff I'll be over here stressing about, be like, oh, I done traumatized them. They were like, what you talking about? I don't remember that. So so really using that to check in, not just to be critical of your parenting, but to really evaluate like what you're doing well. If there are areas that you're struggling in, and using that HEART acronym to acknowledge that mom or dad, you are doing a good job. You are creating good humans. You are allowing them to grow and learn. But I love, love, love this HEART acronym because it's so applicable in different places. Like as an employer, I can be like, how am I doing as a boss? How am I doing my employees? How am I, if I'm an employee, it's like, how am I doing as an employee?
Right.
It just goes beyond so many things. So I absolutely love it. Um, and there was another thing you talked about earlier too that I love that you said. You said that when it came to having time to check in, it was all about being intentional. And so if we are not actually scheduling it, actually intentionally making time with it, this is just not going to happen organically. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, you can think on your way to work, you can drive in your car, but it's still one of those that it's a purposeful thought.
Mm.
Like, because there may be other things that particular day that you're thinking about. So it's like, oh, let me add this thought in too. So it's something that you can definitely be on the move, doing. But yeah, it's not always going to be organic. So you just need to pause and say, okay, I'm going to make my thoughts go over here today.
A couple years ago, I was watching a Michelle Obama interview, and honestly, I can't remember all the interview things, but one thing that stuck out to me about it is that she was explaining that each morning when she's getting dressed, she's looking at herself in the mirror, and she goes, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" And she's talking to herself, and that's a moment for her to pause and check in with herself in much of the same way as the HEART acronym that we just talked about. And it's kind of silly to look in the mirror and be like, hey, buddy. But it's one of those things to like snap you out of and talk to you how you would talk to other people. Like when we're talking to ourselves, we'd be like, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm this. But if somebody was walking down the street or walking in our classroom or walking in our employer, we're like, hey, how are you? So it's a way to snap out to talk to yourself like you talk to other people. Like give yourself that same encouragement, that same peppiness, instead of just giving yourself the bare minimum.
But and it's also self-talk. Like we don't realize the impact that our inner self-talk has on us because it happens so quickly. I actually attended a therapy session a few years back. Yes, therapy is good, helps to maintain positive outlook on life.
Yeah.
But the therapist shared like a diagram, and it was like kind of like an upside down triangle. And it's like you have an event that happens in your life, and then she drew the line. So here's the event, and then she goes across to, and here's your response. But there's something that happens between that event and your response, and we don't always realize what it's the self talk. And the self talk is down here, but it happens in like a millisecond. Like this made me mad, or I don't know, kid does something, and now I'm upset. But what did I say to myself between what they did and me being upset?
That's good. That's
Um,
good.
and so that affirmation or that moment of checking in helps with that self talk because we don't even realize it's happening because it happens so quickly between the situation and the response that we're having to it.
Yes. Yes. Now, negative self-talk, that could be a whole nother episode of this, but just very quickly, dealing with this heart acronym in this process, it is a way for us to challenge our own self-talk too, isn't it?
Yeah.
So y'all, let's just say that the version of me who's here today ain't always what it's been. And sometimes I go back there and it's like oh, this is my fault. This is that, this is that. And I can, in 3.5 seconds, create a way about whatever is happening why I'm the root of the problem. When a lot of times it's not the case. So doing some heart check-in, making sure that you're okay can help that process. Now, it's not going to totally end negative self-talk because it's a whole nother process, but it definitely could be helpful on that journey. So, Valencia, if there are people who are educators or in the educational world who are watching this and are like, hey, I like her concept of like what she's doing. I know that what we've talked about today doesn't even touch the iceberg of what you teach in the educational realm. But if people are trying to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Well, they can email me at Valencia Harris 83 at yahoo.com. They can also email my business email, which is significance.educational at yahoo.com. They can also visit the website at www.thesignificantlife.org. Reach out. I would love to come connect with you, your team, your business organization. There's a menu of services. We can talk more about all the things that I offer, but I absolutely love connecting with others and helping them to be the very best version of themselves, not only personally, but professionally as well.
Yay! All right, so guys, to wrap this up, like I said, I'm so excited. The whole point of today is talking about checking in with yourself, getting to know you in a deep way. In the book Infinitely Worthy, guys, there's a chapter about learning to trust your gut. Yay! I'm excited about the book, y'all. Learning to trust your gut. And you can't learn to like trust your intuition, trust your gut if you don't know what it is. You have to train yourself to know what I'm feeling, why am I feeling that way, and evaluating that. So, using this process that Valencia has taught us today will really help you learn you. And that way you will know, like, when I'm feeling some kind of way, is this like because I'm scared, because I'm afraid, because there's something not right? And you won't always have the answer. It is a process, it is a lifelong journey, but it is a way for you to start understanding who you are and how you're responding to the world. Thank you guys for coming and being with us today. And I look forward to seeing you guys later. Have a good day.